11th edition is almost here. Orks are front and center. And tonight, we're preparing the great war for what's next with the road to Armageddon. So, we're going to talk about the new leaks, quote unquote, have a nice little fun reaction to those models. We're going to talk about the combat patrol potential since we've seen the Space Marines. We can, pontificate on what possibly is coming with the Orks. We'll talk a little bit about more now that we know more of 11th edition. Some models we might want to recap on what we would go for and whatnot. That would complement the Armageddon box. We'll look at the most recent, pretty much the final results, near the final results of competitive play for the top players and how the Orks are ending the entire edition. There are still people that are playing events, RCTs, GTs, even though we know that the next edition is possibly 4 weeks away or something. So these are going to be the final results for us, and we have a little bit on the fun with that. And obviously just going over their results, and then we'll have an open call-ins for the Discord and possibly Facebook if we start. So reach out. We'll try that out in the end. We have no time limit on this. It'll be a nice, fun discussion. Open-ended, very interactive with the chat. What's up? Whoa! Let's go to everybody who's here. Are we live yet? Yes, we are live. And yes, we started. Hopefully you guys can see now. But yeah, we out here, you gets. So let's move on to last thing. WAAAGH paint competition entry 6/8/26 to get some one tactic dice. Put it on Facebook or on Discord. Get your WAAAGHs painted up. Might as well, guys. We gotta get rid of the gray because we also have the new leak, quote unquote. Right? We had the GW news yesterday. It was a video. Not everybody goes on the articles and watches videos. Here are the bikers. We got the Warbikers. Oh man, these are actually beautiful. Very exciting to see these. Here's a closer up shot of the video, so you can check it out if you want to see the full thing on their article. I'm sorry, on their Warhammer News. But first thing I want to say that I'm positive about is the base size hasn't necessarily changed. It looks the same. Even for the knob's the same size as the fellow bikers. Fantastic. Interesting placement on these weapons, right? Instead of being down under, kind of underslung like a Harley almost, they're more front and center. For the DACA, they have some actual horns sticking out the bottom, which is really cool to see. But what I really wanted to point out here is on this knob, we have rockets, right? So is this looking like custom shooters as the war gear on these bikers possibly? And I think I would say I would take it as a pro, some people maybe as a con, is how similar they are to our normal bikes in a way that these will blend with my current army really well and upgrade my bikes as well. And the knob looked significantly better. So for those units that I'm going to be running 6-man breaks, maybe for my trikes, maybe for my WAAAGH if he becomes a leader suddenly next edition, something like that. Or like I was talking about how I like to run some of the new detachments as WAAAGH as the warlord, and then have multiple small units of bikes. So if these guys are in any of the new boxes, we'll see if they come on independent boxes also, but there's a chance that these things end up becoming a part of some kind of box set that's released as well. And Arcane, what's up? Wall for the new bikes despite finishing 21. Guys, no lie, if you're a part of the person watching this video, Arcane, one of our Discord members, love you, but you're insane. When WAAAGH came out, he made 21 Warbikers, not prints, real ones, painted them up, got them ready, or started to paint them up and get them ready because he built them all up, and then GW came out with these. And I'm like, told you, but in the fun way, right? It's still that's the fun part, at least for you, Arcane, as I mentioned. They're similar enough, and if you still get more Warbikers for some reason, if you split a box with a homie or something like that, your knobs are significantly better and they'll have cooler war gear and banners. So shout out to you and your 18 months you get. So yeah, what's up to everybody in the chat. So I want to say what's up to you kids because it is cool. See if they survive the pivot rule. They'll be good. I love them, man. I'm excited, and we do know. Of course, we're going to talk about the other models as well, but what else did I want to point out here? Yeah, so how many bikers are you guys getting of these models? Or we'll do it by model count? Yeah, we'll just do it by model count by threes, all right? So model by threes, all right? Answer the poll if you guys are here. If you're a rewatch gang, put it in the comments. But I'm pretty pumped, dude. We're getting a crazy lineup compared to Space Marines, honestly. even compared to Space Tyranid this edition, right? That 10th, last edition, 10th edition. What we're getting is pretty awesome. Now, there is some to say about, well, these are not necessarily new, quote unquote, data sheets. They're just upgraded models. But to me, these complement our armies because they're not changed so much that they're, going to impact our armies negatively collectively. Instead, they're going to be very good complementary units, just like the boys are. So this is actually exciting for someone like me who I have a lot of stuff already. If I'm going to get anything redundant, there has to be a smooth transition to a certain degree, right? That doesn't make me, oh man, I'm rebasing 21 Warbikers, like Arcane, for example. So very exciting to see. You let me know what you guys think in chat as well, and everybody live, because we're just another updated, awesome model going in for us, and I'm just pumped to get some of those. And speaking of what we're getting, because like I said, this is a recap for everybody who hasn't been around the whole time. With these models that are coming in from the actual Armageddon box, right? If I was to split this up because of a combat patrol, it's likely that you're going to get the banner, a war boss, or a big boss, because I think you're going to get some kind of support character. And to me, it looks like the Pain Boy and the Weird Boy would be really good models for independent sales if GW decides to try to do that with them, more or less. So Banner seems like one of those redundant support characters we'll be able to get a lot of. That's kind of typical for Banner type models throughout 40K as well. You get a lot of them. Not everybody likes them necessarily or thinks they're super unique, but I like it as someone when I started 40K. So this is really good for people who are starting to either have multiple Banner guys, and then you can even kit bash your own Banner to make your second or third one look unique. So I'm excited about that, and I think that's going to possibly be with the Combat Patrol alongside some boys, maybe a 10-man unit of Gretchen, and then most likely the actual war track, not the big, Walker, in my opinion, type model, because they like to keep it more condensed, but I think it's pretty sick nonetheless. And tell me what you guys think about those changes, how they're including the paint right into the combat patrol. And I was like, wait, did they? I'm sure, right? The first thing we all thought was like, I'm sure you're going to make those missing one less unit in that box set now, right? And it's like, nope. They look like they're gonna be all right. So let's see what these super chats also we keep talking. First, Weird Boy. Oh, we got a first F Weird Boy now. $5 super chat. Whoa, the re-rise of the speed walk cometh. Yeah, dude, I'm super pumped for Cult of Speed. Now there are rumors, right? Probably move on to the rumor about that we were talking about with the detachments, right? So when it comes to the detachment rule, we're going to talk about the missions, all the rules. This is going to be extensive video. Maybe I'm overlapping, but it's okay. But with the new detachments that are coming, that they've revealed, we'll say, there's a good suspicion that they're going to keep those at 1 point. Now, possibly 2, and we don't know, sure. But a lot of people are already kind of presuming that it's going to be 1 for the newest ones. And then we also kind of go forward and presume that the strongest ones that are most identified with our faction as a whole, like Gladius, like Warhorde, like the World Eaters, Blood Pound Pact or whatever, the most basic one, CSM, right? Dark Pacting. Those are like what they're known for. Those are going to be 3 points likely. That means we're going to see some really cool overlap of the 2 points and the 1 points, and how it's really going to impact, further rules and how you build your armies. And so I think Speedwall is going to get a good benefit from that. So even if you ever gear Cult of Speed 1 in your codex costing 2 points, okay, cool. They're going to be 1, right? And there's also more, just we're presuming, but based off what we've seen happening to Tactical Brigade actually got rewritten, right? So that was actually 2 things, right? Where it was like, well, first everybody was super excited about Tactical Brigade because you could play it in a way that no one else could see, and you get kind of new keywords from giving able to give tactics to each other, like stealth and such. And now they just changed it to like, well, it's a support detachment. Oh, that sucks. So does that mean most, if not all, the digital ones are going to be similarly written, as in they're going to be written into a support role, brought into line to be 1 detachment point? So really think of it as all the digital ones. This is rumor, right? I'm not saying this for sure. Rumor. Super WAAAGH gets rumors going, right? Super chats. So rumor is that the ones that we're known for are 3, and then the digital ones are going to be 1. Then that means all of the other ones that are more in the middle of that power range and age range will be probably 2. Not all, right? GW might be like, bully boys, no, right? They just they might just turn around and be like, bully boys, you're 3 because we got to make sure you suck. Like, okay, well, okay, we didn't know that, but hey, that could happen. And I really think GW is going to address the digital ones, because that was one of the first things I said when these all started to be talked about. I go, what's going to happen to all these digital ones that came out from Grotmus and such? People are like, oh, we're going to keep those, Yeah, but how is GW not going to get super out of hand and bloated with that much overlap if you don't simplify these? And then they also fit, because this is what people are not understanding. It's going to impact the primary mission, right? What detachment you pick impacts the primary mission. Therefore, they're simplifying what these do so that they can fit into the new mission designs that are coming forward, right? So it's like they're trying to condense them so they blend with the new edition more. So it's not just how strong it is, right? There's a lot that can happen from that. Thanks for your super chat, though. I was yapping, but you get it. That I'm pumped for the speed walk because I think it's going to fall in that 2 cost. Right. And then what's up, Dread Clown? Whoa, got here late. We doomed to hit on 6s for 3 years. Well, we don't know, right? Here's the other thing. You don't know if the rewriting of certain detachments is gonna say simple stuff like you can ignore that modifier somehow, right? Or we just might get better torrent flame burner weapons, and yeah, we do hit on 6s, right? But it might be beneficial. And it might be really easy, for example, like we've seen, that you can get assault now for 1 detachment point cost. And then it's like, well, I got 10 dice over here. Sure, maybe I have 14 of my boys' slugger shots or their shooter shots, but I'm just going to pick these 10 dice up and throw them real quick, see if I get some 6s and keep it pushing, right? So that it could be that still just by picking your passive buff, running up to people, picking up a couple dice, throwing them at them real quick for fun, and then not really throwing them, all right? Don't throw them at them. Freaking gets. And we got a bunch of new orc boys spawning, right? I got to make sure I'm clear for you gets, right? In lore, the newest spawning orc boys are the most unruly. So a knob like stands over the spawn point, like, let me punch him in the head before he gets crazy. All right. So we're making sure you guys aren't throwing dice at people. But yes, there's a chance that we are hitting on 6s, but you don't know if the detachments rewritten is going to somehow ignore or change that rule up. Everybody's poo-pooing and very disturbed by some of these rules. Like if they're a shooting faction, they're like, oh no, it's going to benefit only shooting armies. Well, you don't know what exceptions Tao's going to get. I mean, shooting army is going to get, right? We don't know that what they're going to actually have written and all support stuff. So let's not be doom. I'm not saying you're doom and gloom. It's a fair, good question. But if we are hitting on 6s, I'm going to have just random dice on the side that are you're close enough to throw dice at range, and I'm just pick them up, throw them in there. Did I get any 6s? No. All right, keep it moving, my model, or whatever, moving to the next phase and counting my range or whatever, right? So it'll be fun. I think I'm gonna have fun with it regardless, because I've done that as it is, where I'm like, looks like about 10 boys are in range. I just pick up like 6 dice to be sure, throw them. Oh, I got some 6s. Oh, you died. Cool. That's fun, in my opinion. And not everybody's competitive on the clock. And then we have more super chats because everybody's talking up. But thanks you very much for the support. It's very generous, right? Because we're trying to get that Armageddon box with the teeth. So thank you. Really hoping rockets profile continue to stay consistent across models. If it goes to strength 10, hopefully strength 10 will be on all rocket models for shooting. Exactly. And it makes me wonder, what about the custom Mega Blaster? What's going to be the difference now, right? Because historically they've been the same too, where they just kind of mirror each other in stats, and the difference is one's a set amount of shots and the other one's D6, right? So does that mean the custom Mega Blast is going to be strength 10 now too, or is it going to change to a Melta? Sorry, going with your question though. With your statement is the rockets are going to stay the same. Yes, I hope so for everybody. So yeah, Bustas, the buggies, for example, the ones that are on the Morkanaut/Corkanaut. Hopefully those all stay consistent, just because, and I think they will. I don't think GW is going to start messing the rules up. I think they're learning over time that people don't need more stuff to remember, more rules and numbers to cross-examine with each other. So I think we're kind of safe on that. But because you were very generous, Super Grit, that I also wanted to just talk about custom Mega Blasters because that's another thing. Like suddenly, ooh, we got little meltas. I mean, I'm not saying we will. I don't know that, but you know, they're bringing cleave into the game. For example, like they're starting to realize that some of these weapons have too much redundancy and no difference in picking them. That could be a difference from reason to pick them. So thank you for your super chat, very generous. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to stay the same. No reason for GW to like give us a headache even more for no reason. They nerfed Bully Boys the same day my commissioned Mega Knobs arrived, bringing me up to 18 of them. My PTSD of that nerf is real. No, whoa, right? Don't worry, Gaz. One time got a little depressed, got a little bit of PTSD or something from losing Makari. So that's similar in that way. So you're feeling gazzy. I understand it. And yes, GW has a thing for doing that, like Arcane earlier. You too, we have to kind of hold our teeth tight sometimes when GW is around because they sometimes end up bringing stuff down very quickly. But that's interesting for us as orcs to deal with coming up because we're going to be one of the first codexes that drops, right? So it's like, well, are you really getting these models because of the codex and you're going to wait to get more of them? No, that's the cool thing about most of these things is they're very supportive to Army, complementary to our collections, new in the ways that if we get more of these Armageddon boxes, we can enjoy the vehicles and the characters, which is really beneficial for us. So I don't think this box set is a trap like the Bully Boys getting a bunch of Mega Knobs is. But not sure about the bikers, right? Bikers, we don't know, but that's why I was happy about the bikers bases all being the same as well, because we don't want them to come out with new ones and then, oops, you guys seen WAAAGH, you can get him as battle line, but now you have to buy all new bikers or all new biker bases. They didn't do that to us. So that's why I was so happy about that because of what you're bringing up right now. So yeah, that's very fair. I'm sorry about your PTSD. It's real. That's something that we all learn when we're getting into 40K or bringing up 40K where we're moving up. But I'll tell you what, Bully Boys, if it's 2 points and you get 1 detachment point to work with, that might be enough. And that banner knob might be a knob, right? So you might be able to make him lead units. So your 18 mega knobs might still have life in this coming up, right? So this time between the codex and the start of the new edition, just run 18 mega knobs anyways, dude. So it's really not the end. Now you can have PTSD for sure. But you've seen in the pictures they're showing the old mega knobs also, right? In that video that has the Warbikers. In one of the other pictures, they have an old Mega Knob model next to the Warbikers. So it's not, it's not like they're showing new Mega Knobs yet either. So I think in the meantime, enjoy your Mega Knobs. If the detachment costs 2 for Bully Boys, then move on over, give them a good support role, and get stuck in with all your Mega Knobs, dude. I think you're gonna have a good time. Actually, you're ahead of the game. If anything, you're ahead of the game because you don't have to. You're not all gray. You can just move them Mega Knobs forward and then work in the background on your Armageddon box, until the Codex comes out. So you're in a really good spot, Rykoff Gaming. So thank you very much for the support. It means a lot, and it's very generous of you for the $5 super chat. But chat's still moving hard. What's up, you gets? Like I said, thoughts on digital ones going away for one. Thoughts on digital only detachments going away for the 1 CP ones. Yeah, that's what I think I was covering there, and I do have hopes for the Bullet Boys, Cult of Speed. I mean, and the Hunt. Let's see anything else. Just towel players are sweating bullets. Yes, they are. So yeah, was there? Let's see, we're moving here, moving along to the next thing. Okay, so let's move on to, and we can circle back to any of this stuff, guys, if you want me to talk about the detachments more and such. We're gonna move on to the rules that we do know that are going on that I think will help. But we're gonna look at this from the orc point of view, right? So most of us are aware of this, but now it's time to get our squig juices flowing and actually understand it through an orc lens on how it's going to affect us, even though, like we said, we don't know the exceptions, we don't know everybody else's. No need to think about that right now. Let's just look at how it's going to affect us and what we're doing, and what we're used to. I don't think too much of this is negative for us. I think it's kind of in the middle, and it's pretty exciting. So if you read any of this and we're talking about it, live chat, you go ahead and respond, put your thoughts in on there. It might be something worth mentioning, so don't be worried. or if I say something wrong, sometimes we get tongue twisted up here live. So general game changes, right? So persistent battle shock. Shock attack gun. No, I'm joking. Shock attack gun might actually have a place in that way where now it's worth making them roll because it doesn't automatically go away. But the point here is now no longer battle shock, doesn't expire. The unit has to keep taking it. So even at the start of the turn, it's not there. That's good for very limited units that we have, and we don't know which ones are changing, like the Roboy and the Codex. And it does give a little bit of stuff to like Cult of Speed, where they have an actual strat that can make you take a battle shock, and that would be more impactful at -1. But for the most part, this is mostly negative on us orc players because we don't have necessarily the best leadership all the time, which means if now you're making us take it all the time consistently and it doesn't just go away, for our favorite way to play is let me just stand on the objectives and I'll primary you until I die sometimes as orc players. That's not as good for us either. So I don't hate it. We don't know the rules we're going to get. They maybe can ignore this or benefit from it or make people take it, but it's an interesting change to the rule nonetheless that I think is good for the game as a whole, right? But something I do like is Overwatch nerf. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, so Overwatch is now restricted to the end of the opponent's movement phase and is limited to 24. It was always limited to 24 inches. Hits on 6s, but can't be re-rolled. Now, that's pretty sweet. Now it's end of the movement, so that's good for us as well because like we like our transports, we like moving them about them, better for staging in some cases. And it's not in the maybe not being in the charge phase is kind of redundant anyways in that way. But what's really interesting is cannot be overwatched. Now your Land Raider Redeemers can still be obviously very impactful, but other than that, making people hit on 6s is fantastic because we all know that was a bit maybe overly relied on certain units. Now, pour one out for my Luda gets on the Dread Mob. Pour one out for the Tactical Brigade gets with the Demet Captain. Or I understand that there you guys were enjoying the Overwatch, so I do think that's awesome. Then we have those, and I've appreciated those rules. But nonetheless, as a whole, for 40K, I think it's more healthy to limit all of these overwatching these re-rolling kind of things, right? So I think that's pretty important. And yeah, then we also have Tank Shot. This unit can now be used on both vehicles and monsters. And also they're saying Tank Shock causes damage on if you roll on ones. So I have to double check that, but I think that is actually a rule, and I forgot about that. Fantastic. So that's going to be good for people. It means you can Tank Shock with unusual units as well. As for the orcs, that means we can Tank Shock hypothetically with our beast bosses on Squigosaurs. So that's going to be kind of cool because they're a little underwhelming in damage sometimes, and they do actually like him giving some more mortal wounds impacts to that as well, to like their ideal targets because they like to go for vehicles hypothetically. So I like that. So pretty cool on the orc end that we have a little bit more units that can do that. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. And that means we can do it with our kill rigs again, right? Because our kill rigs got changed to monsters. So kill rigs, baby, got your tank shocks. I mean, sorry, it's not called tank shock anymore. Yeah, it's called, I forgot, it's called rolling stampede, or what was it called? Yeah, but yeah, we'll find it. It's something like I hit you, right? So that's cool. Stratagem limit units are limited to being targeted to only one unit stratagem per phase. That's great for like if someone popped armor contempt and smoke, and you're like, oh, my tank buster's just doing nothing now, right? So that's cool that they don't have that. It does suck for us though, in the way of people currently would use fight on death, right? Orcs are never beaten, and then they would use unbridled carnage because that is the same phase. So for the ways that it's not in the same phase, okay, but in this one it is. So it's like, oh man, like that does kind of suck for our favorite detachment as in Warhorde. For other detachments that are maybe like the Hunt, where they're being able to advance and charge, their advance and charge part is in the charge phase, not in like the command phase or the movement phase, right? So So let's go. So we're calling the strat I hate you for now. All right, cool. Huh? Oh, it's called Crushing Impact. So I hate you for now. I hate you is also a good one, I guess. So Tank Shock is called Crushing Impact. So stratagem limits. It's for some of our detachments that would suck, because we like that doubling down on it. But as a whole, I think it's more healthy for the game, and I think it's going to help with all the new detachments we're going to see, where it's like stuff that GW might have not foreseen and been able to test, or they're just lazy to test, whatever. They're not going to be overlap a bunch of crazy stratagems, because you're going to get stratagems from both detachments. So they're going to try to limit that craziness that may be on the shooting phase or the fight phase. Makes sense, right? Mobile keywords. The universal keyword allows you to move through terrain more easily. So we're gonna see what gets that. I don't know that for a fact, but I definitely think it's worth it. So it'll be nice and clear that we understand that. Now, for list building army structure, like we've already been talking about, but we can make it more clear right now. If you're an orc player and you want me to make it simple for you as I can, because that's the goal here, right? Just chilling, you're painting, we're gonna make it clear. And also, what's making it clear is the bad dog for a $30 super chat. We're gonna get that on the big getting box, boy, with them teeth. That's what I'm talking about. So thank you very much. It's very, very generous of you, and it means a lot for the Great Wall and why we, helps us do what we do. So thank you for that, and why we can actually do what we do, because the Armageddon boxes, we getting it directly to that. You get, so if you see me pumping it out, you're gonna know it came from the guys like the Bad Dog and all the other super chats earlier. But why to you, sir? Why to you? Because you're a newer git, and this is an awesome time to be a green skin. Because I think what we're about to go over with the list building and army structure too is why I am also assuming, based off what we've heard and some people have said on the leaks and we've seen online, and like Arcane asked earlier, the detachment digitally changed. I think because it has to go with this forced disposition part of the game that we're going to look at. So the game's going to also be loaded in some ways of what you remember what's happening, but also kind of similar with I'm doing that same thing all the time. So you're going to have a good time, the bad dog, and thank you for that. So like we were saying, the detachment points. Army's now a maximum of 3. I think the most normal ones I said are going to be basically like Warhorde and such. And then our next favorite one's Dreadmob. Yeah. Right now, I'm pumped. I want to see what happens to Dreadmob. Yeah, Dreadmob is also going to suffer from the 2 stratagem thing too. Just saying. Let's just talk about that right now. Because normally I want to do like reroll hits, +1 hit, and wound, right? Everything. So right now we're not able to do that, especially with another detachment attached to it. But nonetheless, with your forced disposition. So now this is what I'm talking about, why I think strongly that the digital ones are going to change to 1 to interact more smoothly with the forced disposition that impacts the mission you play. So your detachment, let's say, I'm just going to say that this is how it's going to look, that they're going to tell you your detachment, and they're going to put like a little symbol by it for what force or mission you would likely to do. Disposition is just another rule for preference, essentially, right? So you're saying, what would I prefer to do here based off this detachment? So the detachment's going to tell you this detachment wants to do this mission. So if you pick 2 detachments that want to do this mission type, well, then that's the one you're most likely going to do, obviously. But that's also why they had to simplify the digital ones, because they have to be able to say, well, this is clearly what you do, this is clearly what you do, and we're going to make you complement the codex, because the codex is what people paid for and more set in stone and what everybody universally owns and has access to. So because of that is why I'm so certain that they're going to simplify the digital rules, make them 1 point, so that when you're picking your mission, it's way more linear for everybody in that way. Because yes, and that too, right? So the mission, because the Big Mac's right over here, guys. So when we get another mic cable, he can jump down over here too. So he can jump in the chat too. But he was also bringing up, of course, that the support detachment, right? So you know how we have the support characters being released, that there's a leader character and then there's a support character. The same thing for your detachments, kind of, where there's going to be support detachments, which is what I think is going to happen to a lot of the digital ones. So that's the simplest, most easy way for a company like GW, with the amount of detachments there are rules are, to simplify this. Make those all chill. Make them complement the current hard book rules. Those are support ones. These are the backbone ones. Run it out. And I think that's really a really good take. So I think that's what's going to happen there with force disposition. So most people are really focused on like, well, I want to do this because I want this cool rule to kill you and all this. Let's see what the force disposition tells you to do, right? And then we'll be able to even more accurately. We can assume, but we'll be more accurately know. The enhancements and upgrades, our players are going to be up to 4 for your 2,000 points, and you upgrade also allows to be applied to non-character units like a repulsor, like a big unit of cans. And so right here, WAAAGH Tactics, they confirmed in one of the interviews that you lock. Oh, let me put it up here. They confirmed in one of the interviews that you lock your disposition at army creation, even if you have 2 options. Locked you in your army disposition. Yeah. Okay. So you pick it up as a part of your list. Oh, that was what they said, right? Yeah. Okay. Thanks for reminding me of that because that was what they said in a verbal. Man, you have to catch every video. Yes, sir. There's a lot of rules that are changing, but it's good. So you lock in your disposition even if you have the 2 options. So that's good for that. We know when we're building out. Still, nonetheless, it's very similar pattern to what we're saying, that you're picking the rules, you have your disposition set, but that's why they're going to make all the digital ones simple in that way, because they're going to be very clearly just supportive, especially if you're already picking and locking your disposition at the start of your list creation. Yes, they did say that. I don't know how I forgot that. But then that means, boom, there we go. Then they have to be support roles in that way to simplify it also. But thank you very much for saying that. 11th edition. Okay, so cool. What were we saying here? Oh, and the units that the enhancements and upgrades can go on. So, like a big 6-man unit of killer cans might actually be able to get an enhancement now. Cool. They're super slow. They need help in that kind of way. I'd be pumped for that. Getting up to 4 is very, very interesting. How crazy is the game going to get, right? So it's like, how crazy is it going to get in that way? But I'm excited because like a unit of Squighog boys, I think GW is a little hard-headed and not going to drop them in points like we want them to. Maybe they will because the new combat range we're going to talk about in a minute. But something like a Squighog boy unit where you don't always want to pay for the beast boss on Squigosaur or the Mazrock Scrag Bag, well, then you might just be able to upgrade a big brick of Beast Snagger boys. So Squighog boys. So I'm pretty pumped about that as well. And yes, someone already said earlier, someone already owns 21 Warbikers. Already he's ready to go. And I have 18. I think he already has more than 21. He was getting more. So yes, someone is definitely going to own 36 in real life, and they're going to ruin someone's life. So yeah, pretty sick on that. Characters splitting into support and leaders, like I said, makes it more obvious for what people want to do. And I think that helps you too when you're building out your army. As you're getting into the orcs as a faction as a whole, you're like, okay, these are my support guys. Ooh, I need a couple more leader guys. Boom, boom, boom. Make it going on. I think the big boss is going to be really good for like kit bashing. Mission and scoring revamping. So asymmetric scoring, different primaries against each other, so they can be contradictory to each other. Orcs, maybe let's say Green Tide. I want to run take and hold. Then you're playing against GSC, and they're like, dang, I can't fight you on the mid table like that. We're going to play more of the trap time of game. All right, cool. That's nice to see. That's the example GW also gave. That's going to be interesting for me as an Orc player, because typically we already do like to play our mission of I'm just going to play the mid table, beat out the points, beat you up. But this might actually favor guys that, like you said earlier, where we got the super chatter that did 18 commission mega knobs. That means now your mega knob unit doesn't have to try to play the same game the same way Green Tide does, to make it simple. So that's pretty sick in that way. And that means something that's in the middle, like maybe the Hunt, can do both. So can have more diverse play in that way once it gets, the kind of support detachment, then they get rewritten, what they're going to look like. Because the Hunt's probably going to be the main one. Pick a cool support one for the Hunt, put it alongside there, force disposition, the Hunt's better at multiple, boom, we get it done. It doesn't have to play the same way as Bully Boys or Green Tide. That'd be kind of cool in that way. Objective terrain, physical objective markers are replaced by terrain pieces, right? So it's like a rectangle. And that means people can see you. Honestly, that's a big deal. So as much as people are poo-pooing, oh man, this is really benefiting the combat armies. That's not fair, right? You guys are going to be able to shoot people directly into terrain pieces, or people could just drive right up at you or within 10 inches of you and still blow you away. So orcs actually don't actually like that, if people don't realize it. So as much as I'm excited about orcs, the fact that we're going to just have to stand in the open, well, one, we kind of already like to do that, but that's a certain play style, right? You don't necessarily want your Meganoms to be just standing there in the open with one OC and then getting bombed on by everybody shooting and fighting. So it's like, okay, the mission might not tell them they have to do that, but people still have to take the objectives. There's still going to be secondaries that you have to do that, like we're talking about right here, where tactical secondaries are still going to have to draw them, and then you're going to be able to hold on to them. So you're going to have reason to be on objectives and in terrain anyways when you start loading up these secondaries. So I think the shooting armies are overreacting, I would say, a little bit, because of this rule of, unless people are playing, which no one's going to play this way, like a big half of a box as a terrain piece as a ruin to hide someone completely from one side. I don't think shooting armies have to worry that hard. They're going to be able to get a line of sight to most units, but it does increase the value of independently durable models. Maybe they're on objectives, right? So yeah, and then like with the secondaries, no longer have to discard them immediately. You can kind of hold on to them, and then you score them at your own will. So I'm pretty excited about that too, because there's a lot of time where you're like, ooh, can't necessarily do that right now, or oops, I don't want to do that. To make it, you're forcing my hand to wall right now just to score these 8 points. So that's a big deal. So yeah, I'm good things about the scoring mission revamps. I think orcs, nonetheless, we always kind of implement our own game plan, right? Our mission, we make our rule. This is what I want to do to you. This is where I want to have our fight. These are my killing units. These are my scoring units. These are my holding OBJ units. Mixture of both sometimes. That's very clear. And some factions are more decision heavy on what the opponent's trying to do and being creative. That does, we already have to keep track what we're going to be trying to do for our disposition, our opponent's disposition, more secondaries, holding the secondaries, possibly even if you're really high level, paying attention to your opponent's secondaries. You can try to deny them as well. So there's a lot more information for scoring that can be happening as well, even though people were upset that it's going to be kind of redundant in some ways. Oh, I'm playing my friend's custodes. I know he plays this. Oh, the same mission. Yeah, these missions are going to be quite loaded though, right? And you're going to have different layouts when you do the same mission at times. So, and then for right now is a good time to break up to McFatson with a $5 super chat. Whoa, let's go. Thank you very much for that. You good? I appreciate the support. Very generous. He says, new mech model is perfect warlord for my dread mob. But the greatest irony is that I'm most excited at using the Marines to start my White Scars army. No, I'm joking. I got my Imperial Fist army. I think I wouldn't be mad. Luckily, I'm splitting possibly a box with someone if I can, if I like get a second one and such. So it's like I would like some for my Imperial Fist, I guess. But if we're being 100 right here, I haven't even put together all the boxes, the models from the Tyranid box set that I got, right? The start of this edition. So it's like I didn't even put together all the guys, like the pyro dudes. But I would be excited to have those kind of models in the in my Imperial Fist army. And you for White Scars, I'm sure you want the jetpacks, you want the speeder. I'm interested, even though it sounds silly, as the heavy bolter guys, but I'm playing with Imperial Fist, so who cares? As for the Dread Mob, for the Warlord, right? That guy's gonna be able to get enhancements. That new mech model, that's gonna be pretty awesome. And Dread Mob as well, right? I'd like to be okay. Let him ignore cover. Yeah, and the Dread Mob army, give him the enhancements to ignore cover. That's what I like to see to make his Gatling better. So he is pretty sick. I'm as someone who already has a lot of everything and talking to gets like Mark Perry, right? It's like we're actually still excited about getting these models, even the ones that we already have, and we're either just gonna blend them into our units or just make independent units. And then it'd be easy to track to be like, all right, that new Orc Boy model unit mob of 20 gets, they have the enhancement. And then I still have my other 5 bricks of 20. It's like, all right, cool, right? So I'm still going to find a way to make them run. And I'm excited you are too. Thank you very much for that super chat. Very generous of you. But in like Super Gets say, till we see the games, it's all fun speculation, and that's what we're doing here, having a good time. Yeah, you do have to know because we do know at least some of the basic rules. That's what we're talking about now. But it's still speculation because we don't know who's going to ignore or have counters to these moves or be the exception to these rules, etc. We don't know how that's written yet, and we might even have some exception to these rules. So we'll see. So revised shooting mechanics. Cover no longer provides +1, -1 to ballistic skill to the attacker. Of course, this is to stop the AP thing, but this upsets orc players to a degree because, well, not everybody is going to make us hit on 6s. As I said earlier, we don't know what detachments are going to possibly ignore that benefit, and send we to counter it, and we'll actually be able to still shoot our guns because you'll be able to get assault, and not all the orc boys have to shoot us on them. Yeah, even though I feel like that's the only thing I can think about, even though like sometimes when I know there's other units, like my flash gets, for example, I don't want them to suck and not be able to shoot. But I'm like, man, I've been so many editions that I've wanted to shoot shooter boys and had a reason to use them, and now they actually have the models with them and they have a reason. So I'm pumped about it, and I do look forward to some of the digital rules if they do get rewritten to complement that they help deal with that ballistic skill exception. We also don't know if data sheet rules might be an exception to that as well, right? So, what I really want to see though is burners of all types of scorches, right? So burner boys and the scorches on the death dreads, I want them to get better. I think that's fair to say, especially for orcs, if that's going to be the case. Then we have hidden status. Infantry B swarms can get hidden, so if they don't shoot, they're granted 15-inch. Lone operative, kind of like a lone operative, where they can't be targeted unless they shoot and they can be shot. People are like, well, then this is no fair to staging. I don't like that after you get close. Well, that's good because good. We don't know the exceptions, of course, right? Some people are already saying they can extend it by 3 inches. They have a rule that makes it so they can see you from 3 inches further. Like we already know, people will have exceptions to these rules, so there'll be limitations. But it does put stuff into perspective of, you know, a detachment we're going to talk about a little later, but like Green Tide, where okay, you move in to take that shots off a Green Tide unit, likely not picking it all up, and then now even that one unit acts as a lily pad to hit and then move on to the rest of the army and just get positioning. So it does kind of force those interactions from some armies that on some missions would be like, yeah, I'll just stand in my corner of the field, and then as soon as you come out, I'll super punish you. Right. So it's a good rule, but it's not overwhelming because if the enemy full commits, they can then fully pick you up if you put too many units in objectives also. Like I'm sorry, in terrain pieces, because 15 inches is still like you're able to get within close enough. Plunging fire, super excited about that one for the orcs. Only because I actually want something like a Luda to be able to do something in that case. Shock attack gun, maybe even a tank buster. And the Luda actually has the 48-inch range, but then it's like, well, you can't see me within that. That's okay, because the point is you can leave Ludas inside of a building, right? So you can leave Ludas on a terrain piece with a ballistic skill, not shooting, and then when someone moves into that range, then you're like, all right, I get the benefit from this and shoot at them. And if we have heavy, which we have heavy down there, which gains +1 to hit if they move less than 3 inches and did not arrive from reserves. So then you can get +1 to hit from heavy, and then you also get plus ballistic fire +1, right? So Ludas, and we don't know if they get a rule because why are they're going to give them rerolls on objective still? Maybe they'll still have the same rule, right? Maybe you can't do it for Overwatch, but we don't know if a detachment rule will somehow allow Ludas to shoot from further away, still be safe on top of a terrain piece, and then now you actually have some over firepower from plunging fire and heavy support weapon fire, and that would be pretty awesome. Again, Flash Gets, for example, would be a unit that they have heavy on their weapons. They disembark. They didn't move more. They move less than 3 inches. A disembark isn't considered a move currently. It's a disembarking. So Flash Gates might be able to move and then still get +1 to that. So then they're not always hitting on 6s. So we already know that there are ways that we're not going to always be hitting on 6s in that case. And we don't know what exceptions to these rules we're going to have also. So I'm not as negative about it. And I think big shooters should have heavy. That's just me, right? Like big shooters aren't that good anyways. Just throw all the keywords on them, right? What is that, like a heavy stubber? Anything else? Anything I missed there? But our get Dread Clown with another $5 super chat. Whoa, there we gonna get them teeth up, boy. I'm gonna be able to get a banner knob. One gloom, one positive super chat with a return to second edition aesthetic is the this bike this edition. All the bikers have needed love for 10 years. So you think that the aesthetics changed back to second edition? Is it because the horns and because how it's more front loaded and they look a little bit more slimmed down? You know what they remind me of? Oh man, I know, I know. Okay, remember, orcs are supposed to be kind of like a comedic version of from what I understand, like a comedic Cockney accent of some kind of subculture in British society or the UK, right? And with that being said, those bikers kind of remind me of like a cafe racer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm talking about with the cafe racer bike. If you guys don't know, they're like where they took all of the kind of like side panels off the bikers to make them smaller and slimmer because of the roads and everything like that. That's how this front one kind of looks to me, where the bike, the orc on it was like, I want to take all of the bits off of it, and then I want to go faster. So instead of putting more armor, I'm making him bulky, having a grot on his back. He's like, no, no, no. I just want the horns. He's a small down, slim down. I'm gonna go right into you. So I think that's pretty sick. Mm, yes. Okay. So then, yeah. So I think that's one pretty awesome. And the bikers have needed love. Yes, they do, because they look kind of old. How they are right now, and kind of symmetrical. I won't lie. I've broken a lot of the biker weapons currently. And I'm into the horns a lot. Let's see. Okay. And then yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. I go back to where I was, I think, was the revised shooting. Yeah. Uh Oh yeah, not disembarking from a transport. Thank you. Yes, that is true with that one. Still applies if they're staged up and they can move 3 and still shoot. They still have heavy, so maybe they'll be better up as well. Because technically, coming out of disembarkation is not set up on the battlefield. But the Ludas, like I was talking about, still come in from that, and we still have our big walkers that might possibly have heavy on some of their weapons. So that's pretty cool still in that case. But thank you for clearing that up. True, not coming out of the transport. Um, and yeah, they did an update. So thank you very much for that, Clown. I appreciate you very much, Dread Clown, for that. Let's see. Anything I'm missing from the super chats if we're moving on? All right, cool. No. All right. So then I think we got everything there too. All right, cool. So then we go to the melee and charge phase changes. Now these are pretty big, pretty interesting. And I think that for the most part, this is another thing that I think shooting players are overlooking, that combat does have more benefits now and how it can be used. It makes more sense, but it's also not as reliable because now you need a little bit more difficult charges. So let's see. We have expanded engagement range. So this is another one when I was alluding to earlier when I said the Squig Hog Boys, for example. So engagement range has been increased to 2 inches, making it much easier to tag multiple units, but it also makes it harder for, if you have a big base model like a Thunderwolf cavalry unit, right? That guy. Now there are exceptions. People are like, well, those are gonna have strats. They can make it 3 inches. I understand all that. I'm just saying though, it does make these units that are already paying for a pivot, which I guess Thunderbolts aren't, but Squig Hog Boys are, which is what we're talking about. Then they already have to make up for that distance, and then also they have to make kind of gaps or spaces for the tip of the other squig to be able to get there, instead of just, oh, I'm just gonna tag the back of my knob base and be in combat, because that knob base is huge, right? I don't have my knob base on here, but I should measure it. But the squig knob base is actually really big, so that does become a detriment to him. And then, as we were saying, for like Mazrog, Beast Boss on Squigosaur, I'm not even more inclined with, if they're not going to have good rules, to bring those characters if they're slowing me down and making it harder for everybody to get into combat. So I think that's pretty interesting in that way. And they're really trying to get around some of the shenanigans people were pulling off. This also, but that's just engagement range, right? So now we're talking about the charge phase, though. No requirement to base. Players no longer have to base them and touch the opponent's base to be considered in combat. Just be within 2 inches. And when you roll your charge, right now you're rounding up. So if it or not pretty much rounding up. So if it was a 7.2 and combat range, getting your charge range to get within combat was 1 inch, you would have to round up. Sorry, you could round down before because you're like, well, combat range, I can just get within 1 inch. Now it's when you declare the charge, you have to round up so that you can actually make that not 1 inch range, but actually get close enough to be within the base range, right? So that's like a base to base. So that's pretty awesome in the way that makes more sense and is more linear, but it is more difficult because now you're like, oh, what used to be a 7 is now an 8-inch charge, for example, right? So and like we said with the charge rolls, this is great for orcs and our mobs. We don't have to desperately choose the furthest target, but if we roll a big charge, your green tides are going to look crazy because you're going to be like, well, actually, I can reach all of this stuff, even though I was going to be happy just to go for what's right in front of me. So that's pretty crazy. I'm getting a lot of good vibes from these rules, honestly, from hordes, just because I've kind of been saying that already. But these rules I've been thinking for orcs, like we appreciate these kind of changes. As for just basic, elite combat armies, if you're like a 3-man unit of 8 bound, it's not the same in that way. But yeah, I like that. Now no more, oh, I come out to fight and I have to roll a chance to fight even, right? I have to roll before I even get a chance to get into a fight. Then we have mega heroic intervention. So now they have 2 types of heroic intervention, which is an interesting change where you can choose to do the 1 CP1 or you can choose to do the 2 CP1. For the 1 CP1, you can charge anything within 12 inches that made a charge move. So that's huge to be able to be like, oh, I'm going to line up my dude and over there, let's go. And they just pull their own charge off. But from what we understand, right, because if we talked about the CP changes to strats overlapping on each other, you can't declare the heroic and then re-roll the charge unless you already have built-in re-rolls, right? So all of those rules they give you built-in re-rolls also are way more beneficial now, way more. Because before you're like, well, if I really needed a re-roll, I could use a CP re-roll, and I'll just ignore that rule and I have no reason to take that enhancement or that buff or that detachment buff. In this case, I have a lot of reasons, right? Not just your own offense, but your counter offensives in this way of I'm going to do heroic. So that's sick. And then 2 CP, you can charge anything within 6 inches, regardless of where they charge. Now for orcs, this one I was like, not gonna lie, I like to stand right in front of you, right? So like with my grots, my commandos, especially commandos, moving 6 inches, standing 1 inch or 1.1 inches away from you and being like, can't touch this, right? That was really annoying for your opponents, especially when they have these really super killy kind of units that are super fast and everybody in 40K gets so many buffs. One of my favorite things was to just simply move block people. That is not going to be the case for orcs anymore, in the same way. Yeah, it has to be more. But it'll have to be further because now if it's 6, they can charge me if I just stand right in front of them. I'm saying so. That means they're still gonna be able to move up the field and not get in the way. What was the other thing I was thinking? I was thinking of something else. Oh, and they change. I think we're gonna talk about the fight order. Fight first. Yeah, we will in a second. Then we move to Overrun. This is a new site fight sequence. If a unit charges but has no targets left in engagement range, after the first pile in, it can fight. Make a second pile in type of move, which is called Overrun, to get into a fight. They show a diagram for that. A lot of the time as orcs, we already really kind of liked to use this combo in a way where it's just easier to get off now. Because before we would do something like a beast boss charges a rhino, and with Squig Hog Boy unit charges a rhino. The beast boss pops the rhino, and then the Squig Hog Boy unit piles in and hits it. But because they changed all of the pile-ins now, where now pile-in acts as its own phase, and the person who's its turn that is gets to do all their pile-ins at once, this makes up for the fact that, oh, now I can't do that shenanigan. So now the shenanigan is just more secured and you're more likely to get it off. So that's actually a really good impact for us because we like doing that rule. Now, does that suck for our trucks? Yes, but our Chuck's typically issue was getting shot, and then people getting shot after. It wasn't that we were just letting people run up to our trucks and then overrun us. Typically, we were overrunning other people's transports. So that's overall a beneficial move for us. So a lot of these rules are beneficial, but like standing in a terrain piece and getting shot isn't. So I think this is fair. We have cleave. Some people say it's a crappy rule because it's like, well, why would I want more attacks on my axe when I already, I'm an orc unit and I already get a lot of attacks. I understand it. It could make precision more interesting because you just get more attacks in general and you're more likely to take out someone's main character that was leading it. It could be that you just, once you actually get hit from a mob, your main mob can go off and cleave a 10-man unit. Like if they were like, okay, I shot some of your boys away and I stabbed a couple away. Well, instead of your power claw now being like, I got 3 attacks. These stupid umes. Right now he's like, I got cleave. And he just until chops through like a whole unit of guardsmen with critical 5+, for example. You never know. And what other changes for big axes they're going to get. So I think cleave's not that bad as a rule, even though it's different for orcs in that way. It could be a way that other orcs counter other horde armies, for example, especially if they don't have a cleave in the same way. And then we have the fight order. So the fight first, right? So what we're talking about here is they change fight first as well. That is, if you have Lionel Johnson, the Judiciar, for example, stuff like that. Orcs do not have any fight first stuff. So we hated this rule. It was super frustrating. And this way it's not as frustrating because now, even if he jumps into us and fights first, he gets the benefit of committing a charge, but we get to choose who fights first anyway, so you can punch him out if you have to, right? So it's not the same kind of fight first. Now it just makes more sense where it's not like, but I have fights first, right? That's what it was before. It was like, what are you talking about, right? Like what the, it would confuse people that were new to 40k. In this way, it's like, all right, I have the same moves as you, but because it's your turn, you get to pick someone and then he'll get to fight. So I do like that, but that also the new heroics make it so those kind of good units like a Lionel who has an invul and stuff might still take that risk. So that is something to be taken into consideration. We still don't know if we're going to get a fight first ever, but we don't right now. And speaking of, we got our boy K Flynn with the 5 WAAAGH memberships gifted. Whoa, thank you very much for that. You get well. Speaking of, I recorded the after action report with the freebooters versus the Land Raider detachment, the Armor Spirit Tip or whatever it's called. So that was cool. I'm trying to keep them like 15, 20 minutes long. That way it's not a full after action report, but you still get to see orcs getting stuck in. So I just got to get better at them. I've been doing better, getting pictures better. And we're going to release more of those, especially with this new edition going on. So we got a lot more support for that and everything. So I think those are going to be way more common. So all your gifted memberships are going to be worth it. More so, and especially in this time of the Great Wall growing. So thank you very much for that. More tea for the collection and the great loot, because this is gonna be a good one, boys. We got to keep the wall strong right now so that we can keep it going ahead of all the other gets. So yeah, I think we got that one going. So thanks for that support. Oop, and then I think that was for the rules for the Armageddon that we were talking about. Now, if there's any rules you want me to go over again or think that I briefed over too much, like plunging fire on Morkanauts and Gorkanauts too, that was another cool one that we've seen, but I think that we could cover and throw that in for orcs. But now we're going to talk about how the orcs were doing this end of the edition. So we're going to go over the stats and the facts. 11th edition, any more 11th edition stuff, you can still bring it up and talk. This is still a open conversation. So we're just keeping the chat going and everybody's still here. And do we have this on BCP? No, right? We're not pulling up BCP for these right now. If we are, we can pull them up on BCP anyways. Yeah, you could just like put in a link on the notes or something, and then I'll just pull them up. And keeps. Okay, let's see. This one's kind of far. So anyways, we have the last undefeated Warhorde list. So Warhorde, like we said, likely going to be on 3 detachment points, but it could very much be worth it nonetheless. So this is how they're doing right now, as of the time of speaking, getting undefeated right now. Of course, a lot can change, but this had some really fun, cool units and differences. Yeah. So Let me see if I can also, because I should have done this, but I didn't pull it up immediately. Oh, okay. So actually, we'll get this pulled up because the Big Mac's on it. So as I was saying, let's go over the list real quick. We have double beast bosses, Gazgul Thraka, a Big Mac with Follow Me Lads, and a War Boss in Mega Armor. I'm actually pumped to see a War Boss in Mega Armor, dudes. And funny enough, after the action report that I did with War Horde, I took a War Boss in Mega Armor with 5 Mega Knobs with twin kill salts. Exactly what I took. Very similar, but his list is even better. So we have two 10-man units of Beast Nega Boys for those Beast Bosses, a battle wagon, a 5-man unit of flash units, and 2 kill rigs. So, like we said, we know kill rigs are not going to have access to like a tank shock with crushing impact ability. They're monsters now. They're possibly going to get enhancements, some more ways to play kill rigs and reasons to play them. And we see a lot of this redundant transport and a big loss in trucks, I've noticed, right? So, trucks, there was a time, if you guys didn't know, where people would run 6 trucks, 5 trucks, 4 trucks was considered kind of light. Here at the end of the edition, we're seeing 2 wagons, you know, they learned um 2 wagons and a rig and stuff like that. So I'm pretty pumped to see double rigs. We still have a 10-man unit of Gretchen. And then we have a 10-man unit of commandos. And then the Mega Knobs. And then we have 1 unit of Storm Boys and 3x3 Warbikers. And then yeah, so this was actually the team list, which was fine. I thought it was actually still fine to look at this because we do know that we have the missions that are going to be determined that based off how we build our lists anyways, that kind of goes not exactly the same as teams, but similar with teams where you're like, well, I'm implementing my game plan and then you have to deal with it. Now, of course, you get to pick the matchup. So sometimes they're like, oh, I can't deal with it. Nonetheless, this is I build my list to do what I want to do, and then the opponent has to kind of react to it. That's why I thought this would be a kind of good War Horde list to bring up, even though it's a teams event and it is more towards the end of the edition. So we're making it fun in that kind of way by me picking it. But I was excited to show War Horde, and I was excited to show the kill rigs in that way. And this was on the WTC terrain from what I've seen. And the points were his first game was 19, second game was 18, third game was 12, fourth game was 20, and fifth game was 20. So he was getting some big numbers with this War Horde list. And it has a lot of the stuff that I like to see and am I wondering about for next edition. So this is very safe as you start next edition. And of course, this does still go with the Armageddon box to a certain degree, where you can swap out kill rigs for the Big Mac and Storm Warbikers for the War Tracks. You could swap out the War Boss and Mega Armor if you wanted to for one of those models as well. You have the 20 boys that are going to come with you. And then you still have beast bosses, and that's going to be something that'd be good to collect and buy moving into the next edition. Obviously, they were all the combat patrols and battle force boxes that were being released this edition. And then it's funny how it still has a 5-man unit of flash gets on that. Let's see. Maybe I can pull, if we want, we can pull that one up. Maybe, right? Oh, so it's in there now. Oh, I'm pulling it up, guys. Sorry. Let's see if I can pull up that. Oh, I'm going to throw it up on here. Players. Oh, I'm a little zoomed in. All right, and he got number 2 overall at this event. So let me now share screen to that. Thank you very much, Big Mac. Let's see. Get rid of some of these stuff that I have up. Because I have too much stuff up. Get rid of some of this. Okay, cool. I'm gonna make sure I don't show my own stuff. You know when you get that eternal screen. All right, cool. So here we have the dog himself, 5 and I guess he's part of Diamond Dogs. There's the event. Boom, boom. So I'm not making fun. He did get the second highest overall here. We can go over a couple of his matchups just to see what matchups didn't like dealing with kill rigs real quick. And we'll also have on other lists as well. And like I said, it'll be a live chat. We can do some call-ins as well. We have 5 Wall Tactic members gifted memberships from Rick B. Whoa, the rise of the green tide. Thank you very much for that. You get, like I said, we have the after action reports coming out and maybe some members only streams we should start doing. If you have any ideas, if you're new members, let me know what you guys want to see. That's the whole point, especially going into the new edition. We have a lot of stuff we can be covering in that. I like to keep my information videos available to the community. Most people like put them behind a paywall because that's how you make the money, to get people to read the rules and hear your commentary. But I like giving to the community, so it's pretty nice that you guys are giving back to the other great characters. So what else you want to see me do, I'll do for the members live. So thank you very much, Rick B. That's exciting. And it's the time of the battle wagon. Yeah, that's, dude, I got my other battle wagon over here too. I feel the same way. Also, right, we don't know if GW, on the low key, right, between us and the last guys that are still remaining on this live, we don't know if GW is going to try to slip in a new truck on us, right? Right? No one said that. We assume it's possible, right? But the truck is one of those units that is kind of old, very unique, a little small looking, and has a reason to be expanded on and changed and updated. So, I wouldn't really advise people to buy a bunch of trucks right now, but I think battle wagons are going to stick around. And kill rigs, it's also really why I like that list. So yeah, it's the time of the battle wagon. And yeah, gas is still gonna be able to go in there, right? And yeah, we're painting their WAAAGH. You can join the competition. You can either send it to me on Facebook message, you can join the Discord and put it in the Discord channel, or last case scenario, maybe an email, and hopefully it doesn't get lost in the spam, and I don't want to get no spam sent to me. So that's last case scenario, right? And then also Patreon people can do it, I assume. Patreon people can do it as well, which I'm sad for my Patreon people. I suck with Patreon. So but thank you very much because you guys keep everything alive. But yes, we got them. So let's look at this matchups real quick before I get lost in the sauce with you guys. So here we go on this matchups. Obviously, end of the edition, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. We got the Gene Stealer call. We have a bunch of abominants, a bunch of basic characters, a bunch of 10-man units, bunch of 3 units of aberrants, 2s, 5s, and then 1 big 10, and then a couple of pure strain Gene Stealers. So they can't deal with the big brick of mob being super fast, and then all the kill rigs behind them being kind of tough, and then letting all those boys disembark. Boys get snag us up to strength 6, then also being given possibly more strength on the off the wall turns. Pretty sick to see. And then Warhorde to sustain. Now, because the banner knob, you can have Warhorde at home with any of your units, possibly even in Bully Boys. That's another thing I'm pretty pumped about. Next game, he went into another. Was this another orc player, or was it just himself? Watch it be himself, and I clicked him. Yeah, it was. I was like, what the heck? But I clicked. Let me see. Why did it show me Ichigo? That's showing his list. They have the same exact list. Would that be funny? No, it's different. It is a different list. It just looks very similar, dude. Look at the heck. I did not realize that. So you went against literally a mirror in the best way possible, right? He went against a mirror Warhorde list, which was double beast bosses, guys. And then he has a pain boy follow me lads instead of the Big Mac. So maybe he's not as fast. Could be, but he's more durable. And then we have a big war boss and mega armor. Still 10 snaggas, 120-man unit of boys. We have the battle wagon with the 2 5-man flash kits, 2 little Gretchen, and then 2 kill rigs, Amando, Mega Knobs, and the Storm Boys. So keep in mind the Mega Knobs can go in the battle wagon, right? Because some people would be like, well, gas. No, gas is on the field, right? Gas cannot go in the wagon with the 20 boys. So that means the Mega Knob, and then they're getting loaded up with 2 5-man units of flash kits that can disembark from like a blitzer wagon, right? Is what I like to call those, where they have like 2-3 different units inside of a battle wagon. I really like doing that. It's really fun. And it's thematic in that way instead of it always just being mobs. Because some units like the flash kits can get out a little further back, and then that allows them to still get their shots off, but also get close enough to get into a fight. So yeah, he had almost a mirror matchup, which is more Grots, Mandos, and then Storm Boys and Mega Knobs. What's the difference in the Mega Knobs too? Twin Kill Saws also. So this is one of those where who got the WAAAGH and who bought into who first. Maybe because he has the Big Mac, he was able to move through screens and make contact with the other Ork list first. And then he's like, yeah, even through your feel no pain, I just can still blend you because I'm more horde with gas, right? And so it's like, doesn't matter, I feel no pain, you're still dying. Then we go into his third one. Also, new detachment would be in the matchup where you want to do artist nails in the fight phase. You can't do that, and then fight on death also and such too. So that's going to be different in that kind of matchup. Then we go into his third game. This was his low scoring game, where he went to Tyranids. Right, Tyranids can actually be somewhat difficult just because they're kind of cheap and they can make you take battle shocks on your whole, on your actual go turn. This is going to be have more benefits to them with the new battle shock rules, because once they call their army rule, we're going to keep taking battle shocks. There are arc units that don't have great leaderships. And then they also have volume. They like to play bodies for points. So they have that kind of game plan. And then they also have a bunch of monsters that are cheap. So if you don't have exactly teched out stuff to pop them, they can sometimes still be pretty tough, especially with these adaptive units, the Brood Lord, 210 units of gargoyles, which are great for the move blocking. This kind of unit as an orc, though, I would be ecstatic to use the new heroic against, right? Oh, you moved and then you shot. Now you got within an inch of me. That ain't happening no more, right? Because I've had that time where people just get in my way. I think that's what's really cool about that I appreciate about the no rerolls on the Overwatch for this reason, is because also the move blocking, right? People are like, well, I have to Overwatch you and shoot you in Overwatch because otherwise you can stand an inch away from me. Now it's like, okay, well, people can't stand away from inch you for free necessarily, but they can still do it with one unit because you're still going to be able to go into heroic with one unit. So there's still somewhat of that play being involved. So it's a good mix up, but that's what made me think about it as well. Biovores, double Execrete, a big brick of Gene Stealers, 2 Lictors, Maleceptor, the big Raveners, 2 double Tyrannofexes, which these guys can actually pop kill rigs and battle wagons, but not super reliably, especially if you got cover. You're like, okay, I still get saves currently. And it draws all the attention. And then because they have Raveners are fast and the Gene Stealers are fast, they can actually run up and dis and park you in that way. But I wonder what the mission was that made it a little bit more difficult, because typically he looks like he has all the rule that he has all the units to really deal with that. So could just be an initiative factor that those guys are faster and they get position on them with the Tyranids, and then they declare the wall. I've had games like that where like, wow, I'm in a really commanding position, but because you made me feel battle shock, it's not going exactly my way. Then we go into his fourth game, which is Emperor's Children. We got a Fulgrim, double Exalted. We got a Lucas, double Infractors, double Tormentors, a Rhino, Chaos Spawn, double Defilers, and then double Flawless Blades. One's a big brick, though. New Defilers, we'll see if GW actually handles and addresses those. They don't have necessarily the volume for orc mobs, and they don't always pop a wagon. But that's in CSM, though, they do. In CSM, they could just go crazy. So that's just a different thing. But he got a big fat 20 on him. And then he moved into his last game, which was going into Tau, which we really don't know what they're going to look like next edition. So great job for beating Tau. Looks like a big MSU unit with a bunch of breachers and piranhas and Kroots and Kroot rampagers and stealth suits. So that's pretty cool. And then just 1 Twin Lance. So great job with all the 100s to see from this get. Pretty excited to see what they're doing. And then we move to the next Ork list that I want to talk about. Do we have that in Monday also? Yeah. Okay. Oh, thanks. Shout out to the Big Mac. Now we got Big Mac support, guys. Never had that before like this. So streams are going to be way more smooth now. Maybe you guys won't punch me in the face for the for the audio droppage, right? When those types of streams going and I ruin the audio. I'm just clearing a bunch of tabs, guys, because I had so much stuff open. All right. So let's see what's going on with chat to Green Tide. So for those who are still here, shout out to you, Gits. And I'm going to interact with you, chat, because you guys wad at me, added me. I think Green Tide is, so far, with the little information we have, just fun. I think Green Tide is looking pretty sweet. As long as GW doesn't make it 3 detachment points, I hope they don't. Green Tide is looking like in a sweet spot with all the new changes, because they're one of the few styles and armies that's like, all right, you got close enough to us and you're just shooting us because we're on the objective. Cool, we'll endure that. And then we're going to surge and do other stuff to get into you and touch you and still play the primary game, really impact our own force of will. So And I like that he ended this edition off with just overwhelming boys. Because as much as I show you guys other styles of Green Tide, and people can do it, I like running as many boys as I can, especially with the new Armageddon box. And then Dread Clown said, I want to know how many people's wrecking balls are still on their trucks. I think I have one. The rest of them, it wasn't even by choice, dude. Just transporting them. I'd be like, and then the stupid little chain would break. And I'm like, I got the arm, right? And it's like I didn't always want to fix them. So yeah, I don't know how many people have them. If you listen to like my boy like Happy Crumper, he'd be like, don't put any of your shooters on. Don't put your wrecking ball. You got to be 1.1 millimeter precisely behind this wall. If you cannot, your opponent can shoot you from roughly 16 inches from exactly this starting point. And he's 100% right. Nothing, no shame on that. But you know, some of us still kept our wrecking balls. We're like, just trying to fit it in this gap, though. You know, and then you just get shy. You're like, oh, whatever, dude. So I get it why people don't. And I get why people do. And there's really no wrong answer. Just do what you want to do. And we'll see how in the new rules play out, right? Because now we have obscuring and we still be behind it as it used to be. But it's like, well, and it's like, well, I'm still going to be killed right when I move into this terrain piece, I guess, with my truck. It's like, oh, at least you got the wrecking ball. And we'll see if the wrecking ball even stays, right? But that's a fun question. I do like that one. That's hilarious. He said I played Bully Boy versus Bully Boy, and we had the same color schemes. We were the same for 1,800 points. That's so funny, dude. And GW hates Horde. No, it doesn't. Right? It just doesn't understand Hordes. I want to play Green Tide really bad, but that's a lot of painting. True, but batch paint. Use spray cans, use an airbrush, only hit the big parts, just get it battle ready, focus on that, and have fun. So which codex detachment are you playing first and 11th? Ooh, that's a good question. So you guys react to that poll right now. We'll leave it up for a little longer, but make sure you guys react to the poll of what detachment are you going to play: the Hunt, Green Tide, Cult of Speed, or Bully Boys for the new 11th edition. Man, that's hard for me to say down. Even I guess I have to somehow in my third brain think about that as well before we finish the poll. Well, I try to get that one, but hey, shout out to the rule of cool. I guess that's the right answer, right? The right answer is the rule of cool. Last week my wrecking ball killed Heron. Yeah, justification, right? That anecdotal evidence counters every mathematical equation and reasoning Happy Crumper gave. No, I'm joking. Obviously not. But that's what we're talking about with rule of cool. So that's pretty sweet. They made a secondary fix just for the Horde. Yeah, I know. They did that because Hordes were just, too awesome. It just doesn't understand, dude. They just don't understand. They also, now you're right, because they also changed Horde from like just wounds to like only models. They're like, no, we want it just for you guys. I guess that is true. All right, let's see. I'll pull up this Green Tide list just because I think Green Tide's gonna look pretty sick next edition. Would I run Green Tide next edition? I mean, I'm gonna have those new boys. I might have to, dude. I might have to. Okay, so I have his path to victory up over here. Well, how long's this been going? Hour 20? How long can we make this stream, you gets? How long can we make it go? All right, so let's see. So we'll talk about his list real quick. Stat check. No, I'm joking. We have a Boss Nickra and a Gazgo Thraka with the Pain Boy, Bloodthirsty Belligerents, double Pain Boys, triple War Boss, and a Weird Boy. Damn, that's crazy, right? For the amount of characters, really, really heavy on the characters. He straight up blended, prior to Gas buff, Green Tide, with post Gas buff Tide. It was like, I like both. He just threw it in there where he's like, no, I'm taking all the characters, because people, what they were doing was they would reduce the amount of Weird Boys or Pain Boys or War Bosses, whatever, support ones. And then they would say, okay, like one War Boss here, one Pain Boy here, one Weird Boy here, and then Gas. And you're like, okay, this is a support backup one. This is the one that's holding my natural, and this is the one that's jumping around the field. He was like, nah, dude, everybody's getting all the fixins. Every mob is going to do something and be really impactful. And I hate to say it because I haven't done it, but I like it. I actually really, I would love if like I got 3 units have sorry, 2 units are gonna have 4 boss and Pain Boy, and then I can have one that has Gazgul. You can have one that has Pain Boy and then one that's the Weird Boy. Boom. Everybody has a kind of buff, right? And then the ones that don't have double characters are like, oh, okay, that ones I care a little bit less about, but I still have my really interesting ones because having just a spare Pain Boy on a random unit is good because I can just regrow him, right? If it doesn't have a war boss in that unit, if someone wants to do that as well. So it's like, oh, it might not kill you as hard, but it regrows. So we have the 5 20-man units. 2 aggression because you can't let people get behind you. You need a little bit of infiltration, and then you got Storm Boys. So this list right here. Again, yes, this was a teams list, but this is what we're talking about. We're taking the force, right? The force, preference on the mission you would like to take. That it's going to tell you how to actually play the mission. This kind of green tide's like, no. I'm really playing take and hold, dude. I'm straight up, right? It's like, oh, okay. And then if you don't have to, like, say you don't want the Weird Boy anymore, because the Weird Boy is like the only one I might not enjoy as much sometimes. New Weird Boy, though, we might, right? So this list might even be better. But let's say you didn't take the Weird Boy for some crazy reason. You might be able to put more enhancements on this list because you might have a supplementary detachment that gives you access to more stuff too. So you might be able to thin this out just for other kind of buffs, or you're gonna be like, "No, dude, this is a list I'm running because I have a Weird Boy now too." So this I thought was a very interesting green tide list, even though it was just teams. But like we said, because of the new how missions are being run when you build your list and you get to pick what you prefer to play, this looks like he very much knows what he's trying to do. So let's look at his matchups real quick. Ooh, ooh. You guys see the Big Mac right there? I'm going to show you guys again. Hold on. Look at him. Yeah. All right. Let me put this back here. All right, cool. So we have his list. Let's look at his matchups. I was about to say, like, wait a second. That list looks similar. Let me get rid of this. So we have. Okay, I was like Antonio, but that was the last guy we looked at. So let's look at him. He was running the Invasion Tyrannid fleet. I think I had the score. I was just looking at his score. How can I say that's dumb? He had a 16 here. Brutal Lord, Hive Tyrant, Adaptive Raveners. From what I've seen, I think Tyranids are also really going to like the changes. So I wonder how they're going to look next edition. Double Gargoyles, Biovore, double Exocrines, Gene Stealers, double Lictors, double Maliceptors, 10-man unit Neurogons, and then double Tyrannofexes with Rupture Cannons. Yeah, they kind of look very samey. These lists are looking very samey. No offense, disrespect. Just saying. You got a 16 on that. You got a 20 against this version of Custodes with the green tide. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he went battle line on battle line. And then 2 of those units are those full Guardian units, and the other ones have 1 less. We have 2 prosecutors and then 1 Land Raider. Triple Venerable Land Raiders, and then double Witch Seekers, followed by double Inquisitors. This is funny because this is 2 Horde style buddy. We're playing battle line on battle line armies. I think Gaz makes a real big difference in this one, and they're regrowing, right? So it's like they don't have access to Armor of Contempt. Sure, they hit me really hard, but I'm still going to be able to hit them. I'm going to blend them up if I got reroll wounds here. Gaz is going to blend up his units. And I still have more OC than them most of the time, and they're not coming back as their units are dwindling. And then I actually have something that can kill the Land Raider in that case. It does seem like a tricky game to pull off in the case of actually being able to deliver it on your terms. But I think even if you're losing the fight as a whole, as in like they still got Land Raiders more towards the end of the game, you're winning on the actual primary in this sort of matchup. And I think that Weird Boy unit being able to jump around and like push itself on the field and support each other, one of your units coming in from reserves or ingress, and then being able to counter and charge into a Custode brick and blowing up that side of the field alongside Gaz would be huge in this matchup because he got a big 20. He just was straight no diff that Custode matchup, even though it looks like for some people it would be intimidating. He was like, no problem. Then we have Blood Angels. We have Blood Angels Chaplain. We got a Chaplain on Jump Pack, Lamarties, and the Sanguinor. A 5-man intercessor. I don't know why I say it like that. Just bear with me. And Pulsar. Double 5-man unit of Assault Intercessors with Jump Pack. Big Brick of Death Company. And then 5-man Death Company. Double Lancers. And then triple Sanguinary Guard with a Scout. And then a Vanguard Veteran Squad. I mean, Stern Guard Veteran Squad. These guys at least going to have new Vanguard vet models. So that'll be pretty sweet. Again, though, it's one of those situations with all these guys are T4. They're not one-shotting 20-man units of boys. They still have to make contact with them. Boys in response are going to endure that. Power claws are going to go snip, snip. Blend of a lot of these units. They're going to countercharge with their other ones. Lances have like no real good target in that matchup. So it's like, okay, what a waste of those points. And then anything that's just small and getting kind of picked up within the tide slowly and engulfed, kind of not going to be putting down in places on the field. And then the little bit of little fights you have, like a commando unit, could win that 1v1, or like a Snickrot. Not that you're going to need it, but yeah, the list is built for like demolishing people, like elite units, not big mobs in that way, especially because they're all supercharged, like we talked about. Then we go into another Blood Angels. This was Commander Dante, Lamarties, Lieutenant, and then the Sanguinor. Big 10-man break of Intercessors. So Intercessors, you would say, well, those are good into mobs, but only if they have +1 to wound to shoot, in my opinion. So not really. We have 2 5-man units Intercessors, a Ball Predator, big Jump Pack unit of Death Company Marines, and then a 5-man unit, Lancer, and then double Sanguinors and double Vindicators. No, that's decent. Vindicators do some work to the boys, but again, you're dealing with all the infantry with that kind of mob unit. So this list is just pretty nasty because your mobs are hitting super hard, and if they have some kind of durability, staying power to do the primary mission, you have just enough secondary. So I'm digging that going into 11th. He's going into Death Guard. We have Demon Prince of Nurgle, double Lord of Contagion, a Mortarion, a Tallyman, double Chaos Spawn, double Death Shroud Terminators, a floated float drone, double with launchers, one with Blight Haulers, and then triple Poxwalkers. All right, cool. And then that one was 19. And then go on to the last. This last matchup. Oop, almost clicked him. Again, Death Guard. Is it the same one? No, this is a different list. Demon Prince of Nurgle, double Lord Contagion, Mortarion, Tallyman, double Spawn. I haven't seen spawns in Death Guard. That's weird. 2 small Death Shroud, 1 drone, double Blight heavy drones, 1 Blight Hauler, and then triple Poxwalkers. Kind of the same. And then he had the lowest score there with 13. Maybe just his inability to carry Morty, reducing his toughness. Those units do have good volume. So things could get out of hand there if the mission favored that. So nonetheless, it was very exciting. I think this green tide list is what the heck? This green tide list was a good kind of standout style of what we could see going into 11th edition without knowing digital rules, support rules, all those changes yet. That's why I think this was a green tide list that I actually like to look at. So yeah. That's funny. Someone said, wait a second, there's no Dread Mob in the list. Yeah. So then let's look at the next one. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah. So then one more list I kind of wanted to show again going into next edition. Maybe I won't go into the BCP on this one. I can just go over the last 2 lists just as archetypes and fun to unpack how they look. How they look going into the next edition, because I think that's really what the takeaway was when I was looking at these for the most part is, well, how would this look going into the next one? Some of these were fun theories like this, the hunt list, where some of the fun theories we had been hoping about showed up. So we have Beast Boss, Proper Killy, double Beast Boss and the Squigglesaur with the Glory Hog, and a Mazarong plus a Zagrot Wartsnega. Again, I do wonder what's going to happen with like these kind of characters with the squigs, because you can already see right now in the hunt with this list, he only has 4 Squig Hog boys. And they're going with the Beast Boss and Squigosaur. Maz is being run solo. Let Maz be some kind of lone op character, please, so that he functions. Unless, Squigs work better, then they'll be good too. And then we have a Zagra who doesn't actually benefit from this, but this is one of those things I would like to see where, well, my support detachment that I picked to go with the hunt benefits Zagra, or other units that can help be actually played in the hunt. Because right now it's so freaking flat. So if you don't have 60 B Snagga boys, that's fine. You can switch these out for other boys that you're going to get from your Armageddon box and still have similar kind of archetypes. Even if you don't have 3 kill rig, you can swap that out for a battle wagon that we seen earlier. You can swap them out for the new Big Mag, maybe those war tracks, and then pick a support attachment that actually benefits them with this style of the hunt list without having the same amount of redundancy. Because nobody really wants to have 60 Snagga boys to run this detachment, just to have one. And then nobody wants to really have to have 3 kill rigs. I have 3 kill rigs. Pretty sure I have 60 Snaggas. But even very competitive people that we know about don't have that many of those models and don't find a benefit to doing it. And I don't think the general 40K community does either. So even though right now this detachment looks very, similar and restrictive, remember, only takes that little one support detachment to throw in some other kind of units into this and take out the overly redundant ones that take up all the points. So I thought this was a pretty exciting one, and the hunt's really been struggling and not showing off any results. So yeah, I think that's pretty sweet. And of course, we have the live chat. So if any of you guys want to be called in for the call in at the end when we start to wind down after this last list, let me know either Facebook or Discord, and we'll try to get you in on that for maybe a call in chat. A couple of you guys, maybe do them one-on-one. Of course, if you're members, you get priority to your gifted a membership. Say thanks to the Git, because then also you could be involved in that too. So while we're counting down on some of the stuff we're looking at, I'm down to do some call-ins. So if you want to do that, reach out to me on Discord or on Facebook and let me know, and then we'll put you into your own call, and then we'll bring you up, which we've done it in the past, and it's a new thing we do with the members, so we're trying it out here as well because it could be fun. Sometimes you guys got really good stuff to say. Yeah, that was funny. Is there a reason Dread Mob's not in the poll? No, only because we only had 4, and David the Big Mac chose not to put Dread Mob. I don't know why. I guess he already knew that if it was, that I would use a bunch of fake accounts and just tell all you guys to vote for Dread Mob anyways. So he got away from, because I was gonna go reach over and be like, "Hey, Grotz, vote for Dread Mob," right? But he got rid of that chance for me. So oh well. Then we have Cult of Speed. So because of what I just said to you about an hour ago at this point about them probably changing the digital detachments in ways that I'm not going to be too favorable to play them independently, means that I'm spending the last couple of weeks I have in this edition likely playing Cult of Speed because I want to enjoy current WAAAGH to as best of his capabilities. So I'm doing that. That being said, this list doesn't have WAAAGH. That doesn't mean you can't have them, because clearly you could just take out some of these redundant units and run a WAAAGH. So we have Boss Necra, Death Killer War Trike, enhancement with Waz Blasta. And then we have a Gazgul Thraka, a Pain Boy, a Zagrat Wartsnagger. We have 20-man unit of boys, 3 6-man unit of Koptas, 1 5-man unit of Flash Kits, 1 big break of Gretchen, 1 small Gretchen, a Mando, a Shock Jim Jackson, and triple Warbikers. So this is a reflection of what we've talked about on Cult of Speed in the past, and when I talked about the list that I've made or other people that be using them. We've seen someone that brought a bunch of Mega Knobs before in the past as a support, but you need some kind of big hitting brick that just hits in the middle and gets the enemy's respect so they don't bully you at the mid table. And shout out to 40K Dirtbag when we and him were talking, and he was like, "What about a Gazgul?" Because he identified that as an issue right away when he started playing. I was like, "Yeah, bro, I think you just straight up go into that. Don't necessarily commit to just something as small as a big, a mega boss with 5 mega knobs isn't enough in my opinion. If you need that counter assault, you need something big and heavy, and Gazgul with the Pain Boy and the boys is definitely worth it." Could you argue for a 6-man unit? Sometimes, because of a toughness, they get a built-in feel no pain, so you get more stuff. But the issue here isn't that you need more stuff. You already have a lot of Koptas, a lot of Warbikers, and some, Mandos, some buggies. What you really need is something to play the mid-table. Boys double down on all the OC. They hit hard enough, and you don't really need to take a discount on them because everything else is already discounted this detachment for the fact that it can't kill anything. So the boys option is really good choice, but if you really want to fit more buggies or some kind of other fighting assault unit, you can put just the Mega Knobs. But then it doesn't complement Zagrod as much. So Zagrod's on here because he's also already fast, just like everything else. He can move through terrain, so it's easier. Big OC bomb, and he fights all right by himself, and he's cheap at that like 170 points, I think, right now. So they complement each other, have a boys and the Zod, and then alongside with everything else. But there's a little bit of an argument for the Mega Knobs, if that's the case as well. So I do like this one. If we were going to take out for WAAAGH, it could either be just because you already have a lot of, all the Defcopters, for example, but it also could be the Trike himself, and then clipping off some of the Warbikers. Maybe it could be Zagrod himself if you don't want him to be on the list. But as I said, he plays the primary OC game because you're not really killing with this anyways, and it complements the boys a lot. So to have one or the other, it's not necessarily ideal, right? So that being said, is there any live chat members or anybody that wants to call in that we see? I didn't get to check Facebook or anything like that. Remember, if you guys want to call in, let us know. You guys give your opinions on 11th edition. I know it's a little shy thing, but don't worry about it. It's a fun thing. So yeah, and then with that being said, then hold on. Before I go to the last list, let's look at the last poll before we end this off and gets run away. Which detachment would you be more excited to play for? It looks like from the polls we got, did we do it already? Yeah, we finished the poll. Yeah, we ended the poll. We have Cult of Speed with 41%. I think that's possibly because WAAAGH, personally, because that's my point too. Then we have Bully Boys, which is surprising to see, but encouraging to see, because I think Bully Boys with a little bit of support detachment can go a long way to at least being viable and not being just trash. Green Tide, because I think that's a really smart competitive play, and that came in at 24% as third. Still competitive there alongside Bully Boys. And then The Hunt got about no love with 6%. So if I gave you guys a little bit of reason to enjoy, look at The Hunt. Of course, I know you guys already know this because of support detachment and such, but I think there's a reason to still be excited about it. And we know it's not going away. And what if GW makes that one at 1 point? I don't think so, but they might. And so the next poll, how you ending 10th edition? Make sure you let me know. Of course, we do have the paint competition up as well. So yeah. And then last but certainly not least, my Dread Mob list was Big Mac, triple Big Mac shock attack guns, 2 Baby Macs, and a Zagrod. Booty load of Gretchen. So we have 5 units of Gretchen, 2 is big bricks, 3 is small man units, 3 trucks, 1 Breakable unit, which is very odd to see. Now, there is something to say, though. There is a play here with the Breaker Boys. Breaker Boys can choose to pick the button. That's additional AP. And if they're going into a vehicle, they can get -4 AP. Very niche, very, very fun, right? There is nothing that I have found so satisfying as to look at a Space Marine player and be like, that's 4 AP for those hammers, right? Now, the fact that it was only about 5 wounds was the downside to that. But those are some really devastating 5 wounds in that way. So, and that's where that's kind of the play is. Now, also remember though, like, if you were to pit the enhancement that you get to have, Press Fasta, for example, only works in shooting. So you can't double down, right? Because that's the thing I really wish I could have done was Breaker Boys get the ignore AP and the sustain. I mean, additional AP and the sustain. Then it's like, all right, now they're cooking. But because they, have such a low volume attacks and stuff, as much as it's fun, it's just not very seen. So 2 5-man units of flash kits, 2 big 10 bricks of loot, or 3 big bricks of lootas, 2 tank busters, a 5-man unit storm boys, and the Warbikers. I think the max are very clearly going with the lootas for their buffs, and then the shock attack guns going with the tank busters for their buffs as well. Gift Finder goggles goes on with the looter bricks, and then we can't do their ignore rerolls anymore. So I'm excited for the Dread Mob. I think walkers need a lot of love. And I think that they're going to have a lot of changes there, but being able to give buffs to stuff like Killicans and walkers, maybe even enhancements from other detachments could make them go a long way. So I think Dread Mob is going to be one of those where I'm like, as soon as it opens up, I'm likely to look at Dread Mob first when we get to see all the changes at the end of the day. Right? Everybody's going to be looking at let's see the new rules for this codex that I like. My favorite detachment. For me, likely I'm going to look at Dread Mob to see how it changes and how I can implement it. Like I said, get your paint competition in. The Morkanaut Gorkanaut one was crazy. probably might have been top 2 best paint competitions we did. So like I said, and put them in Facebook, Discord, or maybe even email, but it's a little harder to reach there, but there's a chance you can too. So thank you for that. And then yeah, if there's any call-ins, which I don't think any of you guys want to call in, but maybe Rewatch Gang will actually watch this. It's so long, which I'm glad, but nothing sad about that. And thank you guys to all the guys who supported. So we can keep it going and keep the Great Wall going, have the teeth so we can make the moves and get an attack moon. So yeah, we'll get the mechs working overtime. And let's see what else. Some models in big mobs almost always have cover. Yeah, and I think how it's gonna also work now is that they have to be like fully in it or something, but we'll see how that counts for model like hordes. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna wait hanging out. What? Oh no, did I miss Gorkanaut? I have the WAAAGH house. Yeah, we did a paint competition. The last one was just Morganauts and Gorkanauts. Amazing. If you don't even want to hear my commentary, you can press play. I mean, mute and then put ×2 or play or whatever, and just look at all the models. I did a way better job of not spending forever on each model. So it's more rewatch value, and I thought a lot of them looked really sick. So I don't really swear too much on the channel, but they were sick. So yeah. Other than that, is there anything left we want to go over? No call-ins right now. Okay. Only my boy Arcane was the only one who wanted to talk so far. Don't worry, you guys get used to it. We got some greenskins on here, have some commentary about 11th edition, which we have more facts. But with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind: is don't cross our wall, because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.